Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we're gonna talk about the chaddest tank of all time, because the 140 was, back in the day, the biggest nightmare of every single tier 10. Let me explain to you why. Back in the days, the 140 had more than 300mm of effective armor or raw armor on the turret, which made it quite impossible to penetrate, knowing that gold shells were purchasable with gold only and not regular credits, which made it even harder because you actually had to aim at those cupolas to be able to get him. Also, it had a much better gun handling, but also, and probably the thing that made it completely power creeping, the T62A, its mobility was really way better. So you had a combination of an amazing gun, an amazing turret, and an amazing mobility. Everything you need to make this tank a completely broken one. Nowadays, of course, it changed because for two reasons actually. The first reason was maybe 20 updates ago. It was, yeah, at least 1 or 2 years ago. Wargaming decided to really nerf harshly all the mediums at tier 10 to make them easier to penetrate, because they thought it was too broken to have those tanks that couldn't be penetrated by gold shells of heavies and tank destroyers at tier 10. It was a little bit unfair because it made them really so versatile and much better than tanks like the E100, for example. And so Wargaming, to try to lower down the abilities of those mediums, decided to nerf their armor profile. They went from the most armored tanks at tier 10 to one of the lowest armored, of course having the light below them, because that's logic, light tanks are not supposed to have armor. But it was really something back in the days, but you're gonna see in the replay that I find out that is from 3 years ago after. One last thing, nowadays, 5 updates ago or 6 or maybe 7, I don't know, I don't count, but Wargaming buffed heavily the T62A on two things: the armor profile, especially on the turret, but also on its gun depression, which totally power crept what was once the most broken tank in the history of World of Tanks Blitz, the Object 140. And that's why today in this video we are gonna try to find out what was the legacy of the 140 and why this tank should never be forgotten. Let's go, guys. Alright guys, concerning the replay, I took it from a channel named Major Troller. It was a replay from 3 years ago, and it's also one of the greatest from those old days. You're gonna see sometimes it speed up a little bit because the YouTuber already edited a little bit the video. There is music, some speed up when there is nothing interesting, but don't worry, it's still watchable, no problem. And talking about the 140, I told you the first thing to notice is how strong the turret was back in the day. If I remember correctly, you had something like 340mm of raw armor at the front, or at least at the turret cheeks nearby the gun. Nowadays, this area is completely butter and everybody will penetrate you. But in those days, you're gonna see E50 is gonna bounce, E100 is gonna bounce, Yak Panther E100 is gonna bounce, everybody will bounce your turret. Back in these days, in those days, when you were playing with the 140, if you managed to put yourself in hull down, it was a guaranteed win. Except if you're getting pushed, of course. But that was really the good old days. And trust me, as a pro player from the old area, when someone asked me, hey Pantoufleee, what tank should I grind? I'm hesitating. I was always saying, man, just go for the 140. Even if you're not, even if you're not into mediums, just buy yourself an Object 140. There was no competition with any single tier 10 tank to know which one was the best. It was we didn't have that much diversity when it comes to tanks at tier 10 back in the days. It was either you played your Object 140 and you wrecked everybody, or you played your Yak Panther E100, because back in the days gold shells were paid with actual gold. Which made the Yak Panther one of the greatest because it has the greatest penetration, but also an amazing armor if you manage to put it in all down as well. But the 140 is so nostalgic about that old area. I'm also sorry about the quality overall of the replay, but that's pretty much how the game looked like 3 years ago, so there is nothing I can do much, knowing that the YouTuber uploaded that replay in 4K, so you are actually watching it not in 4K because I don't have it, but in 1980p, in 1080p, and it still sucks. But look at how many bounces he's taking. 2 bounces for the moment from the M103. He goes in, he doesn't care, he's trying to angle a little bit his tank, the M103 missed. And now, he just has to go around trying to sneak his shots. He'll probably have the time to reload before the M103 gets his shot in, and yes, he does. For the moment, just to remind you, he bounced M103 twice, Yak Panther E100 one time, and the E50 2 times. Nowadays, all those tanks would have been able to penetrate. And don't worry, it's gonna continue because now there is a T10, there is a tortoise, there is literally everything, and you're gonna see the T10 finally managed to penetrate because it went straight into the cupola, but he got quite lucky, let's be honest. But the game is not over. He goes again and again to try to sneak his shots on the T10, but he sees that the guy is going away. So now he's focusing on the tortoise, which you're gonna see is not able to penetrate the 140. You can't penetrate that tank if you are not using gold shells or penetrating through the cupolas. And against the tortoise, it's really significant because today the tortoise could easily penetrate the 140. But here it's not happening. Now, of course, the 140 had one and only one weak spot and weak point, weakness, call it whatever you want as long as there is weak in it. It was not being able to be hull down. Once you were not hull down with this tank, it became not the greatest tank ever because the hull was not as strong as the turret, but the guy is playing it well. He goes away, even if he only has 2 HPs, which means that if one of the guys he's facing is using HE, even in the turret, which is quite armored, they are going to penetrate. But he's playing really nicely as he's taking distance, knowing he's no life, etc. That's exactly how you want to play it. And you're going to see once again against the Yak Panther. Is he going to be able to bounce him? Maybe, but the thing is, back in the days, the system to allow you to spot your targets was not the same, and the Yak Panther E100 was completely blinded, which makes it way easier for our friend here to sneak his shots. Maybe he will be able to get it down, but no, because DFV managed to kill him straight into the hull. That was this tank back in the days. That was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, because of those abilities it has to bounce shells. And trust me, it's way better that Wargaming finally nerfed it, because even if Wargaming kept implementing new mediums, at the end everybody was playing the same tank over and over again once they unlocked it, aka the Object 140. What a great game, especially knowing the fact that it was 3 years ago, because 3 years ago it was extremely rare to be able to do 8k damage because the game was new, we didn't really have knowledge of maps, we didn't really have YouTubers that explained to you how to play or even tactics, and I don't even think World of Tank Blitz had a YouTube channel, or maybe they had, but with only 3,000 subs, which is definitely not that much, let's be honest. That's all for this game. I hope you enjoyed. If that's the case, feel free to subscribe, like and share. Take a look one more time at the old garage. This one, I know this garage. I actually played this one. If you enjoyed, you know what to do, and I'm gonna see you soon for a new video, maybe to talk about old tanks, maybe for a top 5, maybe for a stream. Who knows? See ya, guys.